This is NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen, also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Now, with the latest NASCAR local, regional, touring, and international racing news and views, here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. I'm Hannah Newhouse, joined as always by my co-host Kyle Rickey. And Kyle, we can finally say it. We are back to racing. Cars were on track over the weekend at both short tracks at Darlington Raceway. Things are slowly starting to come back to normal.
Yeah, we've been waiting for this weekend for, what was the count, like 71 days since the last race at the Phoenix Raceway in Arizona way back in March. So it was fun to watch in Darlington. And as we do this show, hopefully we're going to run an Xfinity Series race and another Cup race this week. We're filming this earlier in the week because you are in Charlotte and are going to be making the trip back and forth to Darlington this week, and hopefully Mother Nature cooperates. But it was fun. It was fun to watch short track racing. We'll talk to Josh Berry here in a little bit. That was a pay-per-view event. Again, very weird seeing no fans there, but other than that and some masks on, it was a fairly normal event and went off, without any real hiccups. So we're getting there one step at a time, and we'll talk about it later in the show up here in the Northeast. Connecticut, Massachusetts, two of the home tracks, the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, are still the only two states in the country that haven't entered Phase 1 in reopening yet. So, until later this week, I'll stay locked in here, I guess.
Greenville Pickens also opened up over the weekend, and we talked about it last week in the show. They allowed a drive-in theater aspect, allowing people to back their trucks up to the fencing. Social distancing, though, and I got to see some pictures from a couple people there. Looked like they had a pretty good car turnout. We'll talk about those results a little later in the show. But like you said, we're slowly seeing tracks start to open up, but not so much in the Northeast like you'd mentioned, and that is going to impact the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, maybe even the NASCAR or the ARCA Menard Series East. Some of those racetracks continue to stay pretty stronghold locked down.
Yeah, places like Thompson and Stafford here in Connecticut, right now there's no end in sight. Like I said, Connecticut hasn't entered Phase 1 yet, where some states are in Phases 1, 2, and I think even some are, almost to 3. So we're getting there. Seekonk Speedway in Massachusetts a week ago was going to be the season opener for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. That now has been postponed because Massachusetts is the other state that hasn't opened yet. And you think of, 3 modified races at Stafford, 3 at Thompson, 1 at Seekonk. That's almost half of the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour schedule. So they're looking at some other options down south because there are tracks that modifieds have gone to over the last couple of years. And before the Southern Modified Tour and the Northern Tour merged a few years ago, the Southern Tour visited a lot of those racetracks down south as well. So I'm hearing Myrtle Beach is an option, possibly in a couple of weeks. So we'll see. NASCAR had a phone call with some of the owners and drivers of the Modified Tour organizations this week. And I'm sure by the time this show airs, some of that news will hopefully be out later this week, and we'll know when the Modified Tour season starts.
Well, it would be nice, I will say, for someone like me to get those modifieds down here, get some more racing action. You've turned me into somewhat of a modified enthusiast. I'm not going to say that they place over my super late models, but it would be cool to have them down here, especially with Myrtle Beach. And Myrtle Beach actually recently announced over the weekend that this could potentially be their last season, which is heartbreaking. I got the chance to race there a couple of years ago with the Cars Tour super late models, but what a historic racetrack.
Been around forever. And, Dale Earnhardt Jr. kind of made a name for himself there back in the early to mid-90s, along with his sister Kelly. They raced a lot there in the late model program, the old NASCAR, what is now the Xfinity Series, then the NASCAR Busch Series raced there for a number of years. It's a great little racetrack, a very unique racetrack, pavement that just eats at the tires. I mean, we talked about the modified races there the last couple of years and how the drivers were, for the most part, half throttle for the first 100 laps of the race just to save tires for the last stint of the event. So it's a great racetrack. I hope the news turns for the positive. I'm not overly hopeful, but we've talked about Irwindale for the better part of a decade now, and how every year, that place is going to be turned into a shopping mall, and every year something comes up either with the land or with the developers, and we're still talking about racing there. So hopefully the same happens at Myrtle Beach Speedway. It's also the home to the famous King Kong monster truck crash from 1990. Just wanted to throw that in there. That's the first time I heard of Myrtle Beach Speedway 30 years ago, this July 4th, a historic monster truck crash. Look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to say that was 7 years before I was born, Kyle.
Well, I'm old, and we've already determined that several times on this show.
Yeah.
Well, you've determined that.
Yes. Yep. Just a reminder. Got to keep you in your place, Kyle. Myrtle Beach again expected to open up this up and coming weekend with a late model stock show. But before we do that, let's talk to this weekend's winner from Hickory Motor Speedway, twin winner, as he swept both of those late model stock races, Josh Berry. So we will dial him up here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Wherever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. You can count on Hercules Tires to have your back when times are tough, all while adding money to your pocket. The purchase of 4 qualifying Hercules tires through May 31st, 2020 could get you up to a $70 Visa prepaid card. Visit HerculesTire.com/spring rebate to learn more. That's HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network, and we're now joined by late model stock driver for Junior Motorsports, Josh Berry. And Josh, we've talked about racetracks slowly opening their doors to racing you guys, and really you're the first driver that we've talked to since this all happened. Before we get into the wins, and 2 of them at that, talk about the atmosphere at Hickory Motor Speedway this past weekend with racing.
Yeah, it was definitely a little different. They did temperature checks as well as required everybody to wear masks and social distance and all that. So it was definitely different. And winning the race, of course, like you mentioned, but that was really when it was pretty unusual not having fans. I think we saw that yesterday with Kevin Harvick. I think he didn't really know what to do, but it was, like I said, it was different, but we made it through it, and hopefully we don't have to do it too long.
Once you got to the infield through the temperature checks and all that, I mean, granted, yeah, there were no fans there, but did you notice anything different? I mean, everyone had masks on, but other than that, it seemed like a fairly routine show from what I was able to watch on the pay-per-view feed.
Yeah, I think so. Everything was pretty normal from that. I got to give Hickory Motor Speedway a lot of credit. They really did a lot of work, and they went through a lot of hoops to make sure to get everything right, and so they could race. And we were all marked off where we parked and away from each other. So, and then of course, like the previous stipulations we had before. So it was a lot of work for them to do that and to race. And it's also risky just racing without fans anyway. So luckily we were able to do it and get some racing under our belt.
And that being said, let's get to those races. They were twin races for the late model stocks. Kyle said it. They started calling you the mailman. I had never heard that. I'd actually never heard the terminology of hauling the mail either until I moved out here. Is that all in correlation with your performance this past weekend?
I guess so. Really, that for some reason started at Hickory, and thankfully it really never went anywhere else. So I think it's funny whenever some other people come to Hickory to race, and they're like, "Well, we've never heard that nickname." So yeah, I guess it has something to do with hauling mail or delivering. I don't know, but I've had a lot of success at Hickory, so I guess that's why it stuck.
Talk about your races on Saturday. Started up front in race number 1, led all the laps. You pulled the 10 pill, or as you put it, the 01 pill there to start the second event and had to start 10th. Pretty solid night overall. Obviously, you won that second event as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's always tough there at Hickory. There's a lot of tire management and tire wear. So, really for me, whenever we do twin races, I really just try to base our performance off the first one because everyone's on the same tires. And then, for the second one, we kind of just, went pretty aggressive, making some adjustments and just tried to see what we would have. And, honestly, we were probably better in the second race than we were the first race, which was exciting for me. And, really it was just about trying to be patient, working my way through traffic and not get in trouble. And just because even still at a place like Hickory, a 50-lap race is pretty long. So we had plenty of time, and luckily we were able to make it to the front pretty quick and then just kind of set sail from there.
Now, leading up to the weekend, you're very hands-on in junior motorsports. We talked to you at the tail end of last season with your involvement as well with Visconti. What was the preparation like for you guys? When did you get the phone call that you guys would be able to come to Hickory and race? And was it a quick turnaround time for you?
Yeah, kind of. Obviously, with everything going on with COVID-19, we've been staying at home a lot. So really, we kind of tried to leave ourselves a couple weeks to prepare. We were pretty much ready. We just weren't exactly sure which track we were going to go to. And then over the last couple weeks, we pretty much figured out that we were going to either race at Hickory Saturday or Greenville Pickens. They race as well down there. So we pretty much had everything ready to go, and was just kind of waiting to see what happened. And like I said, once we got the green light that we thought everything was good, then we finished preparing for the race and got ready.
Rate the field at Hickory. 27 cars, and I believe they said 9-10 former track champions in the field. Pretty solid for the first race back. Granted, it was the only track for the most part running down in the South.
Yeah, no doubt. That was a huge field for Hickory. And like I said, I think like you said, a lot of former track champions there. I'd say that was one of the bigger fields that they've had in a long time. So it was definitely a great race. There was a lot of people there, and it was pretty cool to be able to kind of win one of the first races back from all this going on. And like I said, hopefully we can continue it on throughout the summer.
Now, over this time period, we've talked a lot about it on this show, and motorsports in general has talked a lot about it. iRacing. I was unaware that your actual relationship with Junior Motorsports had started with Dale Jr. and iRacing. I actually listened to the Dale Jr. download a little while back of your episode, and that was a pretty cool nugget that I had learned about you. But you've been part of iRacing for quite some time now. How cool was it to see it grow like this, and what was your involvement in even just your racing that you partook in?
Yeah, that was unbelievable. But like you said, to keep it kind of short, but yeah, me and Dale met through iRacing and just sim racing in general, even before iRacing. And thankfully for me, I just really was just fortunate to get an opportunity to test a late model car for him. And that turned into a couple races, which ultimately turned into me moving to North Carolina and going to work for him. And, I'm still here today. So I guess I did all right. But overall, the iRacing thing, man, it was unbelievable to see. I remember the first time I watched the first Pro Invitational at Homestead, I thought, oh my God, I never saw this coming in a million years. It was so funny, and it was entertaining too. I think it ran its course a little bit, but still, it was pretty fun to be a part of. And I took part in several of the races, and we were able to secure iRacing as a partial sponsor on my late model car this year prior to all this. So that was a cool deal. And like I said, I've been involved with it a long time. So it was the growth that they experienced over this deal is pretty unbelievable.
I read an article this morning about you from 2009, the two sides of Josh Berry, from the iRacing side to the real world side. So you've been involved for the most part on the ground level. What initially got you started in sim racing back, 13 years ago now or whatever it was?
Yeah, I started sim racing. It's probably been over 15 years ago. I think I always played video games and stuff, so I was kind of interested. And then once I got into that, it really took me away from a lot of the, the console games. The realism of it. It was just there was nothing you could get that realistic on a console. And so it just drew me to several of those games, even to the prior ones before iRacing. And honestly, a big part of it too was I raced back home in Tennessee. We had a legend car, and before that we had a little four banger. And I mean, really, we just didn't have the money to race very much longer, and it was just a way to race and way to be competitive. And obviously, I met a lot of friends. Some of my best friends to this day, I met racing on there, and we've, some of them have moved to North Carolina and whatnot. And it was just an atmosphere that really I just enjoyed being a part of. And like I said, it's it's continued to grow. I was in the original, what is now the Coca-Cola series. I was in the original class of that, and it just over time it changed, but I still enjoy doing it a lot.
It's been so cool to see the growth, but again, we are so excited that tracks are starting to open back up. I was at Darlington over the weekend, and to be there with race cars, smell race car smells, you can't beat it. Although we love iRacing, you can't beat that. But over the last couple months, there has been, we've mentioned it, the downtime. You're recently somewhat of a new dad. How cool has it been to take that in and spend time with your new baby?
That's been pretty amazing, honestly. I know through the, that's obviously been a really difficult time for a lot of people, but I felt really fortunate that I've been able to be home the last couple months to spend a lot of time with her and change a lot of diapers and but down for a lot of naps. But I've really enjoyed it, and honestly, I think it's really kind of changed my outlook on a lot of things and over this past couple months. And I'm really looking forward to being able to spend more time with her and as she grows. I mean, it's been amazing to see. She changes every day, and like I said, we've really enjoyed it. She sleeps like amazing, so that makes it a lot easier.
I was going to say, you're a lucky guy for being able to sleep at night. Final question for you about what the future may hold now. We got Hickory under the books. What have you heard about other racetracks potentially opening up, or is it just Hickory now for the next month or so?
Yeah, from basically what I understand, it just kind of depends on what happens with the phase openings. I believe Hickory is probably, from what I understand, willing to race without fans at least 1, maybe 2 more weeks. So, that's going to be an option for us. But it sounds like some of the South Carolina tracks are going to open up a little sooner. I believe Myrtle Beach is racing this weekend. So there's a couple of different options for us. We're just going to we wanted to get that first one under our belt at Hickory. And that, like I said, that was a great performance for us and a great, kind of kickback with 27 cars there. So, for now, we're going to kind of start preparing a little bit for our touring season that's coming up and just kind of take it week by week and just see what happens.
Awesome. Well, again, Josh, thanks so much for joining us here, and congratulations on your wins this past weekend. And hey, hopefully you get to the racetrack a couple more times here in the next weeks.
All right. Thank y'all.
That's Josh Berry, your weekend's winner from Hickory Motor Speedway.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Wherever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. You can count on Hercules Tires to have your back when times are tough, all while adding money to your pocket. The purchase of 4 qualifying Hercules tires through May 31st, 2020 could get you up to a $70 Visa prepaid card. Visit HerculesTire.com/spring rebate to learn more. That's HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Tracks continue to open up each and every week, but this past weekend we talked about a few of those tracks that did open up, Kyle, including Greenville Pickens Speedway. They had their late model stock race and a familiar name to what was the NASCAR Gander Outdoor Truck Series. He's now resorted back to his late model stock roots. Timothy Peters collected that win over the teammates of Taylor Gray and Todd Gilliland. Citrus County also opened up their super late models with Wayne Anderson collecting that win over Jesse DeTilly and Anthony Cataldi in Kern County Raceway Park. out in California, one of the racetracks or one of the states that we haven't seen a lot of racing spark up into, the SRL Spear Southwest Tour, decided to have a race, popped up on my Facebook page. They had their modifieds and their super late models, where Jeremy Doss collected the win in the modifieds over Eddie Secord and William Guevar? I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. The super late models, familiar name, Derek Thorne, captured that win over Buddy Shepard and Cole Moore. So tracks continuing to open up and race.
Yeah, we talked about Hickory earlier. Josh Berry swept both events. Gage Painter finished second in those two features. Matt Piercy finished third in race number 1. Ryan Millington in race number 2. Fly Flag Speedway in Pensacola, Florida opened up. Bill Touchtone won the Outlaw Stock Feature event. Hunter Lambert in the Sportsman, and Grant Thompson in Pro Trucks. And we talked about Tucson Speedway in Arizona a little bit last week. They had practice this past weekend for a big weekend. Coming up Saturday, May 24th, super late models, modifieds, pro stocks, and Hornets. And this Sunday, May 25th, the super late models back on track along with the trucks, outlaws, and hobby stocks. So 7 divisions over 2 days there in Tucson.
Sounds like us with NASCAR here again. If you guys are watching this now, more than likely I will be at Darlington for the second Cup race. Been a crazy journey driving back and forth, but it's been nice to be back at a racetrack. So I know all of these drivers, even at our local NASCAR Whelen All-American Series levels, are so thrilled to just be back to some normalcy. You know what I mean? This is something that we do like a 9 to 5, going to work. You look forward to going to the racetrack every weekend and seeing your racetrack buddies. You just got to get down here now, Kyle.
I'm just trying to figure out, you see the hot spots in California and Chicago and Illinois and in New York City. And then I get on social media and there are tracks in California running. Now Lebanon Valley Speedway up in New York is going to run practice this weekend. You see some dirt tracks, in Illinois and in the Midwest running. And yet Connecticut, fairly quiet, not a whole lot of cases, and we are still not even to phase 1 in reopening yet. So
I know you live there.
I guess I'm just hoping to get to the racetrack at some point this summer. And, with each passing week, I'm wondering if it's going to happen. Some of the great historic facilities here in the country as far as short track racing with Stafford and Thompson and Seekonk. Right now, there's, like I said earlier in the show, no light at the end of this tunnel.
Well, I'll tell you, Kyle, I'm probably not going to be vouching for you to get back to the racetrack anytime soon, because you sent a good luck text to everyone on the MRN crew right before Sunday's race, and it was literally addressed to everyone but Hannah.
No, you were part of the text.
No.
I mean, you were on the text chain.
I was, but you verbally said, good luck to everyone. I miss you all except for Hannah.
No, I said, I miss seeing you all except Hannah. I see you every week here on the show.
Did you like my response?
Yeah, and our producer Ryan Horn apparently enjoyed the response as well.
What can I say?
Uh-huh.
Well, Kyle, I look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday, Monday, whenever we're going to record this, because NASCAR schedule has us in a tizzy. So
don't get any tickets going back and forth to Darlington. They're South Carolina. Those cops are waiting for you.
So I let Dylan drive.
Okay.
Yep, I got this figured out. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in today to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Best of luck to all the teams and drivers as they start to head back to racetracks and all of those that will be racing this up-and-coming weekend. We'll see you next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
You've been listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen, also brought to you by Hercules Tires. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.